What's up guys, welcome to the studio. I'm Tsu and this is Wolverine. He goes by Logan or James Howlett, but many of us know him as the Wolverine. If you wanted to immortalize Wolverine with a collectible figure, there are many choices to choose from. Brown suit, yellow suit, denim jeans. But the one we're talking about today is the 2018 Yellow Suit premium format figure from Sideshow Collectibles. This figure falls under Sideshow's premium format product stack, which puts this figure at 1/4 or quarter scale, measuring in at 15.5 inches or 39.37 centimeters in height, also 15.5 inches or 39.37 centimeters in width, and 13.25 inches or 33.66 centimeters in depth. Aside from its die-cast metal claws, this figure is fully sculpted from a polystone resin mixture. With the regular head displayed, he weighs in at 14.95 pounds or 6.78 kilograms. The exclusive head adds a few more grams at 15.10 pounds or 6.85 kilograms. So he's not overly tall, nor is he overly heavy, so it'll be fairly easy to squeeze him into your display area. This figure comes in 2 SKUs. As of this upload, the regular collector edition, which is still available at any high-end retailer, has a limited production run of 4,000 units and costs $575 US. The now sold out exclusive version was only available on Sideshow Collectibles website and had a limited run of 2,500 units and costed $10 more at $585 US. A total combined production run of 6,500 units is a pretty high edition size, but popular characters like Wolverine can move those numbers. Wolverine stands in a traditional signature pose that you may have seen him in many times across different media. It strikes the middle ground for those that like simple museum poses and those that like more dynamic poses. He has a fairly aggressive forward lunge as he stands atop a severely damaged and severed sentinel hand. Wolverine holds his ground with a wide stance and both claws fully extended at his sides. His left foot placement on the bent back finger of the sentinel is a nice touch, lending an organic placement on the fully environmental base. Since his left leg is forward, the most optimal viewing angle of Wolverine is from his front 3/4 right side. But I personally think he looks best when viewed head on. Wolverine here has a shorter and stumpy physique that is very befitting of his depicted size and stature from the books. The yellow suit that we see is a slightly stylized version of his astonishing suit. These stylized touches come from Sideshow's design team made of Alex Paschenko, Martin Canal, and Raphael Grassetti. Examples of these unique design touches include the modified blue running down Wolverine's sides, which are now cut out around his pectoral muscles, and do a fantastic job at emphasizing its shape as well as highlight the added in striations on the edges here. Also, his pronounced winged boots return, which is a fan favorite design. His suit has a sculpted in textured pattern which has a lot of depth and is impossible to miss. The ribbing on his knee pads as well as seam lines all over round out the unique style of this astonishing suit. As mentioned earlier, the claws are die-cast metal, and yes, they are very sharp. let's talk about some finite details which oozes out everywhere on this figure. As I mentioned earlier, this is a fully sculpted figure. The most obvious thing to start out with is the textured pattern on the suit, which there are two main differing areas, and those areas are differentiated by his yellow and blue color blockings. The yellow areas have a deeper pattern while the blue areas have a shallower fabric pattern. As beautiful as they are, they do present some limitations, which we'll get into later. Every area on Wolverine has some sort of texture. Even the flatter surfaces have a very authentic and truly believable leather texture to them. Seeing is believing. You can see them out most prominently on the ears of his cowl. Moving downward along this seam panel, it may seem blank at a glance, but it's quite the contrary. All the way at the bottom, leather is also present in the side paneling of his boots. Despite the depth of the textured pattern, they were still able to sculpt these suit crumples on top of his abs and also striations in his pectoral chest area, lending an authenticity as if there's muscle and skin underneath the suit. As beautiful and impressive as sculpted on textured patterns can be, one downside is that they can be very difficult to clean dust from. Trust me when I say air cans aren't always the solution either. Fortunately, Wolverine's bright yellow colors can help alleviate the visibility of dust. A sealed enclosure, if available, is an ideal environment for this figure. Some other details worth noting are the stitches in his belt, as they are tiny and easy to miss. Another thing is the hemmed edges of his cowl, which is truly impressive and actually kind of blows my mind. Also on his cowl are these beautiful wrinkles caused from the furrowing of his eyes. These are extra mile stuff that I just completely gush and geek over. The weaker areas of the sculpt would have to be on his arms where the hair would be. If you stand back, it looks fine, but if you get too close, it looks more like a skin condition that Wolverine should see a doctor about, despite his healing and regenerative abilities. Maybe there's no better way to sculpt his hair yet. The exclusive edition's unmasked portrait is not a total game changer, but it is a very nice alternative display option. His cowl rests behind his neck, his eyes have a slightly upward gaze, and it fits his overall pose very well as the protruding throat muscles really emphasize the rage that his face is making. A huge bonus for those with the Cyclops 2020 premium format figure, as both portraits pair beautifully together. Moving down the base, there's tons of claw marks done from Wolverine, showcasing his ferocity. I especially love the deep gash under the fingers area that gets wider and wider, severing the pinky completely and overturning it on its side. Inside these gashes, we have a glimpse and an idea of the inner mechanical workings of the hand. The damaged Sentinel hand rests on top of a rock formation that may give it some leeway to display with other X-Men figures. If there was a bit of snow beneath the Sentinel hand or some hint of danger room cues, it'd display better with some of those other X-Men figures from Sideshow. Now onto the paint design, which was done by the very talented Bernardo Esquivel. Wolverine has his very traditional yellow and blue colors, which as you can see is very vibrant and striking. Paint design on a figure with a sculpted on textured pattern isn't the most straightforward process. Notice on the yellow areas how there's very little painted on shadows or shading. It's easy to miss, but there are some gentle, deeper shades of yellow in very light amounts. This is because too much shading can leave pockets of coalesced paint in textured pattern. We can see this in the blue areas where the textured pattern isn't as deep, but the painted on shadows are a little heavier. Despite the textured pattern being shallower, some of the paint still coalesced into pockets and look like spots. I never put too much thought into his shoulder pauldrons being metal or metallic by design, but they certainly are depicted that way here on this figure, as streaks of silver metal are exposed from scratches and scuffs, which is a nice touch. His boots have dirt and grimy weather on them, and fortunately, it's not overly done. The veins in his arms have a slight green tint, which does a great job at portraying his leaned out, low body fat physique. The paint on the base is no slouch either. Though the Sentinel hand is mostly blue, the tone and finish is varied enough to distinguish between itself and the blue areas of Wolverine's suit. The red diode in the palm has a strong, deep ruby red color with a high gloss wet finish. And no, it doesn't light up, though how cool would it be to have a red pulsating glow from beneath him? On the Sentinel hand, I particularly love the claw marks, as the effect of exposed silver metal does a wonderful job at adding further depth between the surface and under layers. The biggest issue with the paint is the yellow colors bleeding through the blue side panels, which becomes more conspicuous the closer you look. While you certainly can buy this figure, put him on a shelf, and call it a day, more this time than usual in order to get the most out of Wolverine's textured suit, his musculature, and his pose. Proper lighting is crucial. His forward lunge means direct overhead lighting won't highlight his underbody. Strategic placement of lighting just out front above him will properly bring out the details on this figure. Let's address potential leaning concerns, as this is definitely a valid issue. Since this figure came out 2 years ago, there have been photos circulating showing leaning and sagging. Since then, those photos have become more and more common, and some are shockingly bad. This figure has been displayed in my collection for 2 years. With that said, during the summers, the environment my Wolverine figure sits in is a consistent and dry 78 degrees Fahrenheit or 25.56 degrees Celsius. Some may construe that this temperature is a bit on the neutral to warmer side of what is optimal. Despite that, there hasn't been any lean or sag on my figure. I do recall assembly of the body onto the base being a very snug fit, and I do have some very small wiggle and jiggle room now, though that could also be attributed to it settling into its environment. As with most of these figures, take into consideration what environment you live in, as hotter humid climates can cause these figures to lean, Wolverine here being a prime candidate for that possibility. With that said, even though this issue sounds more frequent with this Wolverine figure in particular than usual, I believe it's still a very small minority with this issue. Is this figure worth having, and where does this Wolverine figure stand among others? Let me start by saying that it is such a shame that the thing holding this figure back is its potential leaning concerns, because it really has kicked the next generation of detailed statues manufactured at scale. Some of Sideshow's subsequent X-Men figures that released after this Wolverine figure have been following this trend of ultra details. With so many Wolverine figures to choose from nowadays, it also comes down to how much the astonishing Wolverine suit resonates with you. If you're a sucker for intricate details, you live in an ideal climate where there's no chance of leaning over time, and you resonate with the astonishing Wolverine suit, this figure was tailor-made for you. Unfortunately for me, the Wolverine suit that resonates mostly with me is the not-so-mellow yellow suit. So I'm still looking for my perfect Wolverine figure, but until I find it, I'll be more than delighted with this one. This video has been on my project list for over 2 years, and it kept getting pushed further and further back, but with the recent rise in numbers regarding its leaning, I feel like 2 years has been a good amount of time to talk about this figure's mid or long-term durability. I'm so relieved that I didn't have to scratch this project completely. But that's gonna be it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for stopping on by and checking out the Wolverine with me. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, sub, or follow, and all that other good stuff. If you wanna keep going down the rabbit hole of collectibles, click on one of the playlists at the end. As always, don't worry what others think. Collect the things that you love, and I hope to see you guys in the next upload. Again, thank you guys so much. Happy hunting, and take care. Peace out, guys.